This entire team has been lifted tonight by Odell Beckham. This is sick. Put this to music.
Folks, Rad League fans, Rad League hopefuls, Rad League members, we are here. It is the start of football season. First-time guests, both Rad League champions, Jordan Couture of Eat My Grit, Michael Belton of Figure It Out. Welcome, boys.
Thank you.
Little championship lounge here.
It feels good.
Champ lounge going
Where's
on.
the cigars? Where are they?
No, we should have had them going. That was a fuck up.
Jay is just
Yeah.
trembling right now. Jay is absolutely trembling watching this.
Did you guys watch the Who Needs a Chip video the most?
I did, yeah. That was a good one.
It was definitely
I think I
Jay.
turned
So
that one
today-
off halfway through.
As you do most, I'd say.
Yeah.
Pretty
The
common.
biggest
Yeah.
Rad League podcast hater is making his first guest appearance, EMG. Today, we had to give the people another rendition of the power rankings. We had the first one of the year, pretty much just keeper based and draft pick based. But today, we've got guys, we've got players. We had the draft last weekend. Everyone's got a full roster. No trades have been made yet. Couple waiver additions, couple acquisitions, some drops, an illegal move by the first or by the newest member of the league, the Inferno, using an IR spot. No IR league here is the Rad League.
Oh, I didn't even notice he did that.
Yeah, he dropped the Pittsburgh running back Warren, picked up Gus Edwards, threw him on IR.
Wow.
As the CFO, I'm currently drawing up paperwork to fine him a substantial amount.
Gotta be some sort of punishment there. He's an extra body for a few minutes. Like,
Anyways, so we've got the power rankings. We all three of us privately / non-privately submitted our rankings, and now we've got consensus. Same as the last rendition. You got ranked 1, 10 points. Ranked 10, you get 1 point. The rest you can all figure out at home on your calculators. How should we do this? 10 to 1?
10-1 for
I think
sure.
so. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got the ranks here. Neither of these two have seen it yet. So I'll hit you guys, then you guys will give your first snap reaction here. Rank number 10. You could probably figure it out just by your submissions. We've got EMG with 5 points.
The Donald.
It's tough.
Don,
you know.
what do you have to say about it? I mean, maybe you were expecting it, maybe you weren't.
Yeah, I had myself 9th personally, so I was expecting to be 9th or 10th in most rankings. I mean, I said it to you guys privately. It's not the sexiest thing when you have the best tight end group in the league.
Yeah.
Running backs could definitely do some work. Obviously, the draft did not go as I planned, but hoping some in-season trades, which I'm not typically known for until the very end. I'm hoping to get that going a little bit earlier this year, I think.
Last year you were the Kittle team, right? And you moved him for RBs, or was it vice versa?
Vice versa, grabbed him late.
Okay.
So last year I went RB heavy, and then they all
Right.
crapped on me. So this year I thought, let's do the opposite. Go no
Hunter.
RB strategy,
Yeah.
and see what happens.
I'm gonna find a middle ground, maybe. Now for me, I had an EMG ranked as my 10th team. I think a big part of that was not being able to break 90 at Winchester. That said a lot, but yeah, I think your team, just your RB depth is concerning. Damian Harris is your 10th, or as your RB2, sorry, is a little yucky. And then even if he fails, you got Singletary as your 3rd. Don't love it. And your wide receivers, not bad. Might be missing a top end talent wide receiver. That was the one thing. Your wide receivers, you got good depth, but Mike Evans, Pittman I like a lot. But we'll see if one of those guys can go in the top tier.
Yeah, I'll probably be trading Mark Andrews in 4 weeks with that jersey for an RB,
Oh, yeah.
hopefully. At least one to get in the room.
Your 2 tight end guy. Like, when has that ever worked?
Yeah, that is a thing we got to keep in mind. Mark Andrews is basically your wide receiver 1.
You do tight end.
You've got some wide receiver depth, though. Pretty much, I had you rank at 9. I don't hate your team. It's just for the lack of maybe other powerhouse secondary RBs, Saquon still hasn't shown us that he's going to be a top 5 without question. Maybe if that was the case, your rank would be a little different. You could kind of rely on him a little more, but
Yeah, this is a huge year for Saquon. Probably the biggest year because he's probably going after this, no matter what.
For sure, for sure. But EMG there with 5 points, rank number 9. This is where, hey, all year at the draft we thought it's Chubb, Mixon. We said draft starts at 3. For this, the rank starts at 9. The rank starts at 9 here.
Was locked in. I mean, he's the only guy who hated his own draft. So that
famously Jordan drafts Deontay Johnson, goes, why the fuck did I draft Deontay Johnson? Anyways, the 9th ranked team of the Rad League with 8 points, the Tinker Soldiers. They were coming in the bottom half, I guess, across all 3 of us. They were, for all 3 of us, bottom 5. I had the Tinks here ranked 7. So I think I was the highest out of all of you guys. I was the highest, yeah. Tink squad. I mean, Tink. There's been rumblings of new Tink, but Tink just went full Tink, if you ask me. They went wide receiver heavy. They've got gross receivers: Diggs, Lamb, Hollywood. Went elite at QB, Josh Allen. But my God, these running backs. Javonte Williams, who, sure, great dynasty. Is he in a committee? He might be. Dameon Pierce, Antonio Gibson. We don't know, A, if they're good players, but B, we do know they're on bad teams. And there's nothing really going on behind that. He's already looking for a flex donation. So it wasn't the worst team in the league, but definitely has some weaknesses.
Thing about Tink, I don't hate Tink's team. I had them ranked 8th, so still
kind of like Tink's vibe when I look at the roster, but I'm like, is the points actually going to be there?
I think the big question for him is his wide receivers are good, but his running backs, big question marks. Like Javonte Williams, we still don't know. He could be in a 50-50 with Melvin Gordon still. He could be the same as last year.
Yeah.
If that's the case for Tink, it's a nightmare. And then Pierce looks good in camp. I know Andy thinks he's a dog, but he's on a shit team. Even if he's great, if that team does not improve from last year, his running backs could be in trouble. And then Gibson, like, what the hell is Gibson? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
I had Tink 10th below me simply because of that AJ Dillon meltdown. That was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen.
Fair.
The draft was a tough day for Tink.
I think, he has a lot of players on his team who could progress well at some point, but I agree with what you just said in terms of the points not being there in weeks 1 to 3, 4, perhaps.
Yeah. Receivers, they're tricky too. Like, if they're kind of up and down, if, like, let's just say CeeDee Lamb, Hollywood, who we think are studs, put up a couple like 60-yard weeks without a TD, like, his team could really be hurting there.
Yeah, you can print this on a shirt though. He's got the best wide receiver room in the league. I would put that on a shirt right now.
I think I actually voted Jab above, but they're both very good. Both very good.
Mm-hmm.
Moving up, we've got a tie for 6th and 7th. We'll start with a team that had the lowest overall vote out of the 2, which is Cume, the vacuum cleaners, with 10 points.
Wow.
They are tied with bench warmers with also 10 points at spots 7 and 8 in the Rad League rankings. Mike, where do you have these teams filing in?
Sorry, are we just talking vacuum cleaners here? Or do you throw another in there?
I went bench warmers too. You kind of talk about both, but start with the vacuum cleaners.
So I had bench warmers pretty low. They were my 9th ranked team. I don't like it's like when you look at the Dame's roster, it's a classic Dame roster. He's got a lot of the older guys, especially at receiver. Michael Thomas as wide receiver 2 that could go so many different directions. That's very
troubling.
As a wide receiver 2. But if he gets back to where he was in the past, then it could be the steal of the draft. But I find that hard to believe. And the main thing for me with Dame's team, liked his running backs. Obviously, he's got the Kelsey Mahomes stack, which is nice. His flexes are a little shaky. He's got 2 handcuffs and Tyler Lockett as his flexes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was the main reason why I ranked bench warmers so low.
Did you say they were 7th and 8th respectively? Because that's exactly where I had them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had vacuum cleaner 7th strictly on the fact that he has a lot of question marks in the running back department. we all know the history between Akers and Dobbins and the injuries that they're coming back from. So if that turns out to be, you know, a home run for vacuum cleaners, he's going to make the playoffs. He's going to make some noise. But if those guys struggle on their way back, especially Akers, who I'm probably going to talk about later on in this video, I think that might be his downfall if he has guys that don't progress the way that they should coming back from injury.
And my reason, I actually had the come cleaners at 6 because of that RB depth. And I think that those injury concerns that those running backs have is why he was able to get that RB depth.
Yeah,
I think having guys like Dobbins and who's his other, Cam Akers. Yeah. Like if you have those guys in your flexes all year, like that's a good looking lineup, but it's a big gamble that he took for sure.
Yeah. I had bench warmers, I think, in the 6th spot. I just think they've got enough big boys, Kupp, Najee, Jones, Kelsey, Mahomes stack to put up, you know, enough points to get some victories beginning of the year. And I do like Stevenson and Pollard. They might be kind of rough in the flex, but the upside for this team is there. Like we're talking about running back depth. Stevenson and Pollard in a world could produce the same as Akers and Dobbins one day. Mm-hmm. Obviously Lockett, we all know who he is. But then, Michael Thomas, Devonta Smith in the wide receiver room, not too great. Vacuum cleaners I had as my last place team. Jefferson and Swift was a good start. I see where they were going with Akers and Dobbins, but it's like, just take one of them, you know? Just take one of the guys coming off a serious injury. Mm-hmm. Receiver, they managed to get Sutton for wide receiver 2, very strong, but it's like all the rest of the receivers to me are kind of yuck. Robert Woods, 30 years old, coming off ACL. Christian Kirk, maybe he's fine, but he's fucking boring, mate. Like, I don't know. We got
as a once Christian Kirk stan, I'm going to respect that pick. I think he's going to do well in Jacksonville.
Yeah, throw that out there. Got him at a value too, but the rest, I'm just worried that there's not a lot of pop on this roster, and if the running backs have issues, vacuum cleaners could be in a scary, scary situation to start the year.
Not to mention he's also rocking Cleveland D to start the year.
And you got to look at these teams like, where are you elite? Are you elite at running back? Elite at wide receiver? It's like everyone's kind of got some good guys there. When you look at QB and tight end, he's rocking Wilson and Freiermuth. Neither of those guys are elite. Like,
and combo in the league.
Yeah, that might be the weakest combo. Yeah, we're just talking about Dame. He's Mahomes and Kelsey. Like, he's got his question marks with like Michael Thomas. Like, what's the difference between Michael Thomas as your wide receiver 2 or like Cam Akers as your RB2? Similar, almost risk level to, but Akers was drafted higher. But that's another thing. Like, QB and tight end might get a bit overlooked. So that's kind of, I just didn't see enough good vibes coming out of the Cume Cleaners camp. Up next here, this would be the 6th place team. This is where it gets really close. So our last teams went 5, 8, 10, 10. We've got a big group of 5 teams now ranging from 19 points to 22 points. Very close. But team number 6, greatest show on paper.
Oh, that's a big gap then between those bottom 4 and the.
So it looks like there's a clear top 6 for playoffs and a clear.
Right, GSOP is GSOP 6th ranked on our consensus.
Yeah, 9 points ahead of bench warmers.
Okay.
I
noticed about sorry, Don, just before you go. The one thing I noticed, I love GSOP's like his 1-2 running back punch is pretty elite. I think he probably should have went Mixon over Chubb, but
it is what it is.
Chubb is pretty about as good as it can get. Mm-hmm. One thing I know, so that 6 of his 7 wide receivers this year have a different quarterback than they had last year. So that could very much swing in both directions.
Yeah.
If anybody's ever had wide receiver core like that, where they're all either on new teams or just their own team got a new quarterback. But the talent of his wide receivers is there. And again, I feel like a lot of teams this year, especially when I look at their flexes, GSOP similar to a lot of teams. I don't love his flexes. I don't know how I feel about Sanders, Claypool, Juju, who knows what he's going to be like on Kansas City, but just as a core, that flex group is not that appealing to me, but I think he's got some of the top end talent that could get him into the playoffs.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because I had GSOP 2nd ranked, and I think that one of his strongest things is his flex group. I think it's it's not a pretty set of names, but I think that all three of those guys, especially Sanders and Juju, have great chances this year to bounce back quite tremendously. And honestly, I just ranked him second because Austin Eckler's that fucking dude. Like, he's just sick. He would be an amazing player to have on any fantasy team, no matter what scoring your league does. And he just reaps the benefits of having Austin Eckler. And I think pairing him with Herbert, hey, maybe he gets a nice dump off for 75, 80 yards. And that's just unstoppable at that point. So I think pairing Herbert and Eckler together, as G-Stop did, was a pretty smart choice.
Yeah. I like Schultz at tight end too. That's pretty strong. It's not the most elite of the elite, but it's definitely strong at the position. Obviously, RB. The receiver core stands out the most. T. Higgins, AJ Brown, DJ Moore. Very strong. But then the reason I couldn't put G-Stop, where did I have them? I had them at 5, kind of middle of the pack. But as great as kind of the top 2 running backs, top 3 receivers are, the receiver core, I didn't see a ton of separation from other ones. Like, they're 3 very strong ones, but maybe T. Higgins is a number 1. This guy's not going to be top 5 at the position. You know what I mean? Like, other teams have a Jefferson, a Chase, this and that. Very strong team, very balanced. The flex kind of is what it is. He's got some guys that can fill in, but yeah, I couldn't really go any higher than 5th spot.
You know what? As I'm hearing you guys now and looking at his roster, I don't know what I was thinking putting where I did.
Where'd you had him at?
Actually, I had him
7.
So I had him just outside of the playoffs, but
yeah.
I mean,
I think
you had him below Hume. You had him below.
I think the basis of that was the Eckler Chubb was just too hard to ignore. That was.
Yeah. I think
you think you should put him lower.
I think possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're all the same, pretty much.
Yeah. Spence, I think you saying that G-Stop is one of the more balanced teams in the league is pretty fair. When you look at that roster, it's pretty balanced.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, pretty much good everywhere. Maybe lacking some of the splash, but Chubb and Eckler, they're very good. Moving on, our 5th ranked team, 1 point above the Jackrabbits, a team that we saw trade away their keeper in the offseason, trade away about every high pick that they had other than moving up to grab the 102. And then they just dominated the 4th and 5th round. And they killed it, in my opinion. I mean, they grabbed Joe Mixon, which was big for them to kind of get that anchor RB1. Keenan Allen was a fine guy to keep, I guess. And then they hammered wide receiver depth. Terry, Bateman, Judy, Thielen, Godwin, Hopkins, like, that's there. They managed to scoop a tight end in Darren Waller. They scooped RBs from the famous RB dead zone that could actually be good. Eli Mitchell, Josh Jacobs, Rashad Penny. Like, he's got a lot of players right now that even if he gets nicked up with a couple injuries, he's going to be able to win any matchup to start the year, I think.
Yeah, I think Jay, I had him at the 5.
I had him ranked 2. I had him ranked number 2.
Oh,
okay. Wow.
okay.
I think to me, he fits perfectly in that middle group because he's got like the depth that he has out of the draft. I don't know if we've ever seen that kind of depth before out of the draft, just solely based on the amount of picks he had. And I think he did draft well with those picks, but he's missing the top end talent. And I think that's what is going to limit him from reaching the upper tier of teams in this league.
Yeah, I had him 6th on my ranking, and I would probably agree with you, Mike, just for the same reason that, like, especially that wide receiver room, it's deep, but I don't know if he has anybody on that wide receiver room who's ever going to put up a game of 22 plus points. Keenan Allen might not even be the wide receiver 1 on his team, right? Terry McLaurin has a new quarterback who is probably going to be his last year in the league because he's that bad. So I think those are some questions that Jackrabbits have to sort out this year. Is he going to acquire that top end wide receiver talent who's going to be his keeper for next year?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely a strong team. It kind of got a lot of, like, maybe he's missing. Other than Mixon, he doesn't have real true game breakers. But when I look at it, we always say you leave the draft and you're probably going to have 2 guys on your team that are just complete write-offs. You have no idea are just going to be absolute wasted picks. G-Stop can afford, or not G-Stop, the Jackrabbits could afford a couple of those and still be a good team the very next week. So that's kind of why I ranked them up there. Next, after this, we had a two-way tie for third and fourth place. To break this, we will go. The team that's going to get the third spot is the team that had the highest vote here. So we have Inferno, ranked number 3 with 21 points, and myself, ALL, ranked number 4 with 21 points as well. Mike, we'll start with you. In Inferno, you had Inferno ranked number 1 in the whole league.
I did, and that was the top place. And I did not expect Inferno to be my number 1 as I started doing my rankings. But the way I did my rankings was like, what are our teams right now? And going into week 1, who is the best roster and the roster you're most scared of to face? And as much as we chirp his wide receivers and his depth, those 3 running backs in a standard league, you can't overlook. And those guys have the ability to go out and almost you should project them each week to put up 70 points as a trio, just those 3 players for his team. So I think that regardless of the rest of his roster, I think those 3 guys can carry him. So that's why I have him ranked number 1 to start the year. But in saying that, all it takes is for one of those guys to go down with an injury and his team does not look great anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, I had Inferno third. So I'll speak on the other team there. That was ALL. I had ALL 5th. And the only reason was that I think you went a little too rookie heavy. That's the only thing I'll say. Did you have to go with both Drake London and George Pickens? Probably not.
In the 9th and 10th round, mate. They're on my bench.
You have every rookie and second-year player in the league.
You legitimately have every rookie.
They're gross, dude.
Did you have to go with
that needed?
I'm just saying, you could have added some more experience and more sure things. That's the only thing that probably left you out of the top 3 for me.
That's the Mike Davis pick right there. Lines up that average age.
Yeah. Mike Davis, Mr. Relevant, last pick of the draft. I'll talk a bit about Inferno, I guess. Yeah, I had them rank definitely the lowest. I had them ranked 7. I know he's got 3 powerhouse RBs. The wide receivers are fine. They're not good. He does have Kyler, but then it's like the bottom 2 flex and the bench is just putrid, in my opinion. And even without an injury, let's just say, Carolina is scared of McCaffrey getting injured again and they limit his touches. Let's just say the Titans think they're going to be a playoff team and they don't want to burn Derrick Henry to the ground and they want to save him for playoffs. Like, the Saints could be a similar thing too. Like, these are all powerhouse RBs that are all in their second and third contracts. They're all, about to be 30 years old in the next couple of years, however old they are. So I'm just a little worried that maybe they don't get injured, but at least one of them is going to have a decline. And if we see that, I just think that Inferno might be scrambling a little bit if they don't get some kind of guaranteed production here. I don't know. I definitely swayed heavier towards the teams that had a lot of balance at the beginning of the year, because I think some of the, elite players are going to make themselves known partway through the year, not necessarily to start. Like, I'm thinking last year, guys like Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler. Yeah. So they were like first round picks, high picks, but we didn't consider them in the top 5 tier of overall players in all of fantasy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just think we might have some surprise guys that can produce similarly to Kamara, Henry, McCaffrey. But
I'll say about Inferno, though, and to touch on your point, is those 3 guys, we know what they are. We know they are elite, bearing injury. If they're healthy, we know they're going to be elite. And when you talk about the depth on the others, on all these other teams, right now we look at so many guys and we think they're good heading into the draft. We think there's so many players, but a third of these guys after 2 weeks, we're going to be like, oh, they actually suck. And we were wrong about them.
Yeah.
So a lot of these teams that we think right now have a lot of depth, come 2-3 weeks into the season, they might look not good. Where Inferno, he's got 3 guys, if healthy, are going to be top 5-10 running backs in the league.
Now with Derrick Henry, though, not a lot of people are talking about the fact that Derrick Henry, hey, there's a lot of miles on Old Tractor Cito. That boy has been used a lot. The Titans have never had a substantial backup running back to ease his load.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of miles on that body, and it's going to break down real soon.
I mean, they really don't this year either. They got Hilliard, and I don't even know who their other guy is.
Fucking McNichols again? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Haskins, a rookie. Yeah. My team, though, I had myself ranked number 3. A little bit of bias. I'm in love with my team.
Yeah,
Shoot.
I had you ranked 4. And big part of that was, I think, you have a lot of question marks on your team with your young guys, but the big thing that put you to the top was your keepers are probably top 2 or 3 in the league coming into the season. So
Yeah, Taylor Adams. My whole thing, I was drafting, I just went pretty much straight upside. I got Trey Lance, George Kittle, QB tight end sack. We talk about teams that are elite in that position. Those 2 guys could be elite. They could be fucking write-offs. Receivers, I just got a lot of young, fast athletes who I'm hoping can break out, be a nice combo to Adams. Etienne, Edmonds in my flex. Mike, I was similar to you. I wanted to identify 2 running backs in the flex. I'm hoping these guys could be good for me. Little PPR-ish, but paired it with Smash Mouth, AJ Dillon, and then very PPR-ish. Yeah, my bench, I got some rookies, hoping 1 or 2 of them can kind of break out, be into my roster. I think I'm in a good place, but definitely kind of have to wait and see still on my team.
Yeah. Are you happy with Jalen Waddle as your wide receiver 2? Are you happy?
I am happy with that. And then Elijah Moore is my wide receiver 3. I had both those guys kind of in a very similar tier. If I was going off my own rankings, I had both of them going before the 3-4 turn, whereas I got Waddle there at the 3-10. I got Elijah Moore at the 5-10. So I was happy with the value on both. I'm just a fan of them as players, as athletes. I like their stable production. But yeah, moving on. Second ranked team, 1 point ahead of Inferno and ALL. We've got FIO. 3-time champ. This team was another pretty much balanced team. I didn't see too much different between myself and this roster, besides the fact that you're probably a little more sure at QB and tight end with Jalen Hurts and Kyle Pitts. Your receivers, you got Jamar Chase as kind of that tier with Adams. Then I viewed a bit of a drop off to where you got all the same guys, kind of like Brandon Cooks, Hunter Renfrow, good, not great. And then you've got, you got 4 running backs in Brees, CEH, Montgomery, Dalvin Cook, where should be good production, maybe some question marks, but overall really good roster.
Yeah, before Mike, before you jump in there and talk about your team, the thing I'll talk about you later in one of the value picks as well, but I think something that's probably overlooked on your team is the upside in your bench currently. I think there's a lot of upside in Gallup and McKenzie. I would say that those 2 guys, if something happens in their wide receiver room, if somebody goes down, say Gabe Davis, whatever, maybe he's not as good as we thought he was going to be this year, Isaiah McKenzie's that next dude up in Buffalo. And I think he has a lot of upside with Josh Allen. So people would overlook your bench right now as it currently stands because you have some handcuffs. But I think those 2 guys are guys to look out for.
Yeah. I've got to say, after the draft, not that bench after the draft usually means nothing. This is the happiest I've been with a bench after the draft. I'm in love with Rachaad White right now. And Khalil Herbert, handcuff my own guy, whatever that is. But if Montgomery ever goes down, then I have a little security there. And those 2 receivers you just mentioned were both guys that coming into the draft, I was like in love with and thought I had to get these guys. But yeah, I had myself ranked number 3 actually. But the one thing going into the draft, like ALL, is I wanted that running back depth. And yeah, so taking 4 guys, I think it took like 4 running backs in the first, or 3 running backs in the first 5 rounds or something. And that was important for me to do. Receivers slacked a little bit, but Brandon Cooks is my guy and I'm fine with him as my wide receiver too. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with my team I got here.
Yeah, you got definitely, we both went with the 4 running backs. I obviously hammered it in on the 1-2 turn with a little more of the unknown guys, AJ Dillon, Etienne, 2 guys that I like the player profiles. I think they could be in situations where they get a lot of touches. You've got more than known Monty, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but then Breece Hall, Etienne, similar kind of situations there, kind of unknown. But yeah, definitely a very strong team.
I think this might be the first year I've had a Falcon in a good 5 years of playing fantasy. That should actually give me something to watch for in Falcons games.
Yeah. Moving on, first ranked team here by a wide margin with 29 points. I had them 1. Jordan had them 1. Mike had them 2. The Jabronis, the team that traded away Christian McCaffrey right before the draft. Pretty insane, but Jab nailed it. Looking through his team, he's got probably, in my opinion, the deepest wide receiver core. I'm trying to pull up this guy's team. Yeah, Mike Williams, Debo, Tyreek Hill. Like, I think that's neck and neck with Tank, Gabe Davis sliding in there. He got the elite QB, Lamar. He's got a lot of running backs that we know who they are. Connor, Zeke, Gordon, Hunt. Like, guys are going to get you production. We'll just kind of have to see if these receivers can truly be number ones, like top 15 guys, and hopefully their running backs can kind of hold on, barring their age and usage so far in their career.
I mean, he may have the Chargers wide receiver 1, and he may even have the Rams running back 1 by the end of the year, because who knows what's going to go on in that room, right?
Good
Sean
bench job.
McVay's been very hush-hush about who's going to take over there, like he typically is every year. So I would not be surprised to see Hendy shoot back up people's ranking boards throughout the year, because that's typically what happens with him.
Yeah, Jab. I had them ranked as my number 2 squad, slightly behind Inferno, which is bizarre since they both blockbusters this league's ever seen.
Yeah.
It could be one of those rare win-win trades for both teams if CMC stays healthy for the Inferno. But Jab, the reason I had them 2 right behind Inferno is they just are missing that top end running back talent. Zeke and Connor like both of those guys, but I don't think either of them there's no world either of them finishes as a top 6 running back.
Yeah.
That's what he's lacking. But other than that, he doesn't really have a single hole in his rosters. Wide receivers are stacked. He's got a good QB, a good tight end, which is rare to see.
Yeah, good roster. We'll see. For the team that traded away, a top end player for a bunch of depth, they're the team that's primed to trade away depth for a top end player right now.
It's classic.
Which
just recoup it.
But yeah, hey,
you're just circling back.
But that's the thing about this league. Like, we start so many players where the teams that are the deepest often look the strongest. Like, I'm thinking about last year. I remember J-Dog had a very deep roster then too, and we all thought it was really good. Thinking about my team that won it, I had Taylor, Mixon, Adams, and like a couple receivers to start the year with Lamar, and zero depth at all. But sometimes in fantasy, you can just recoup that through the year. So to be ranked high right now with depth, it might not mean that much come week 14 when, the elite players have really separated themselves. But yeah, overall, I think this league killed the draft. A lot of good teams. We're going to get into some of our favorite values from the draft and some of our favorite reaches. Only thing is, this Zoom call, under a minute remaining. I will need to end it and start a new one.
Oh, no.
And then throw them into the same video.
Tragic.
Don't have Zoom Premium, boys. They don't fucking pay the bills here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am going to end this call quick, and I'll have to send you boys a new link.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Like I say, it's about 8,000 degrees in my room right now.
It's so hot.
We're back. The recording's back on. We've got a new Zoom video, a new Zoom host. We need to up the ALL budget, the Rod League budget, for maybe some new tech.
The foundation will look into that for sure. We'll look into that.
Foundation. Well, now we're going to dive into some of our highlights from the draft, some of our favorite value picks, and some of our favorite reaches, which is a little bit more fun. What do you guys want to start with?
Start with the reaches. We'll end on a high note.
Reaches? Okay. Mike, you're going to give us your favorite reach.
My favorite reach, this one, I don't know, might be a bit of a surprise to people, but my reach was Lamar for Jake at 209. I think even when it happened, I was like, wow, he went QB a little early there. And I think like Allen went, what did Allen go? Like second round, Andy took him? Or
206?
Yeah, second round. That's probably around where he should have gone. Like Allen's the clear number one.
There were three picks apart.
Yeah, so then I feel like Lamar is not only 3 picks worse than Josh Allen. He's not on that same tier, and Jake took him as if he was in that same tier. And I don't know the exact number, but after Jake took Lamar, I don't know when the next quarterback was taken. Like it might have been
had to be Herbert.
When all those other QBs that were taken in the next 3 to 4 were pretty much same tier as Lamar Jackson. And I don't know if somebody has the exact round the next one was taken, but I think it was the 3-round gap between the next QB taken.
Lamar went pick 39. Herbert was the next one, pick 61.
Yeah, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
And is Lamar even better than quarterbacks like Herbert?
I had Herbert ranked higher, to be honest.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, so I think I had 3 or 4 QBs ranked higher.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be my reach. I don't hate Lamar Jackson.
Get your guy, though.
Get your guy. Jake had a lot of picks, so he's able to do that. But I feel like he probably could have waited at least a round or 2 to get Lamar.
Yeah. Jordan?
I mean, speaking of get your guy, I got to go with Breece Hall with our guy FIO. I think that was a big reach. I mean, we all agreed on that post draft. I think you did have your reasons for taking him, but those first couple of weeks might be tough if he's in a 55-45 or a 50-50 split, whatever it may be. And I think a lot of people are just saying, oh, Breece Hall's a freak athlete, he's going to take over. But like Michael Carter wasn't a terrible rookie. He was just drafted last year. He knows the system just as well as anybody else would in that Jets room. So, I mean, he's a good player. He's going to be a good running back. But I think based on his ADP and where you took him, I think there's probably I looked into it. He's typically going about 44th in most drafts now. And including our keepers, you took him 26th. So there's a big gap in like his ADP in the rest of fantasy circles and where you perceived his value. But, got to get your guy, I guess.
Yeah. And that was a big got to get my guy. My thinking was that I did not think he was going to make it back to me the second round, and I had to get him. And one thing I'd say about the whole ADP thing for him being lower, I think in our league, it changes having the 3 flexes. Getting those RB depth early on is so important. And in our draft, if you don't take a running back in the first or second round, you're pretty much scrapping for an RB2. And compared to the guys that went after him, I don't think there was a big gap between him and like the Travis Etienne, AJ Dillon.
They were the next 2 backs off the board.
Yeah, like all those guys to me were in like the same tier. Breece Hall was my guy. I knew that was my only shot to get him, so I had to take him there.
Fair enough. For my reach, I'm going to stick in the first round. I'm going to go with you, Jordan, with Michael Pittman. Definitely get your guy. You're kind of thinking this guy might be my new keeper, but I also think of what went into this pick, where you were kind of sandwiching me on the turn, where you moved up to get those 2 picks in front of me, and you went Mike Pittman there, solidified a receiver, followed up with Mark Andrews, which was a pick I really did like. Obviously, I went running back to the next 2, but then where you were drafting previously, I looked at the next 3 players, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams, AJ Brown. But like Tyreek and Mike Will, to be honest, I had ranked higher than Pittman. You could have Pittman higher, exact same tier in my eyes. And I just look at the, 5 picks ahead of them and making the trade you did to move up there. I feel like you could have got very similar player in the second round if you just stayed at your pick, and then you would have had whatever pick you gave up there. And like we were talking about missing out on an RB there to start the draft, you were kind of scrambling after that. But you're thinking about, I might want this guy to be my keeper for, the next X amount of years, which if you don't pay for it at the draft, you're going to be paying for it at the deadline. So it's kind of pick your poison.
What round pick did you originally have, Jordan? Was it the
he had 109 and then 202.
Yeah. So that's that. Like, I don't hate Pittman where it is, but the 2 guys you got, I feel like you could have just taken at 109 and 202. I don't know what you gave up to get that one.
Perhaps I gave up my 5th, and I got a bunch of 9th round picks later on. But the only defense I would give for taking Pittman that early is because I would never take Williams or Tyreek because they would not fit a timeline. They're not a good keeper at this point for me, I don't think. I was just aiming for someone a little bit younger, and I thought you were going for the young guys, Spence. So I just, kind of thought I had to do it. Unfortunately, seemed like you were targeting running backs the entire time, which I obviously didn't know, but it's a risk I thought I had to take.
Fair enough. The pick you ended up giving up was Amon-Ra St. Brown, another young wide receiver there. But yeah, some of my honorable mentions for reaches, I had surprised no one went Damian Pierce or Cam Akers. I thought those were kind of screaming reaches. Yeah.
Handy enough.
Yeah. But hey, it is what it is. You could draft a running back we might call a reach and he could be a league winner. I mean, Akers has that ability. But yeah,
I did have Akers as the second one too, but
yeah,
I mean, I think he got good value on him. It's just the risk, right? Like he was pretty much taken at his ADP.
Akers?
Yeah, he was. Absolutely, he was. But I just think I just don't love the pick. I mean, the value's fine. I just don't love the pick. I don't love the player this year. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Now we've got our favorite values. I'll start us off this time. My favorite value, I'm going to go Hollywood Brown at pick 45, which was made by the Tinker Soldiers in round 3. Yeah, round 3. I had Hollywood as a second round guy. I kind of viewed him, to be honest, in the same tier as Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Mike Pittman, AJ Brown, those guys. And he kind of fell down to the tier with like DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle. So, when I was sitting there, I got Waddle 5 picks after. I was kind of watering at the mouth, thinking that I was going to get Hollywood Brown there. I just love that upside in the 3rd round. I think it's rare to get that game breaker receiver there. So yeah, good pick.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now looking at this 3rd round, I could also possibly toss in Andy's the 3rd of his 3 second-round picks or 3rd round, whatever this is. DK Metcalf might have been a reach where he was taken.
We probably should have mentioned him. Yeah,
DK Smith. Like I don't know how you can do anything with that guy,
especially just right before Josh Jacobs. Like, say what you will about Jacobs or a situation. This is a running back who's getting the goal line work. He's getting guaranteed touches. Like, who would you rather have in your flex, both of you, Josh Jacobs or DK Metcalf right now?
Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, easily. Yeah.
But Drew went wide receiver. He went full tank. How about you guys? How's your favorite value picks there?
I'll let Don go. I feel like he might have my guy as his value.
Okay. All right, big guy.
All right. Let's see if it's the same. I'm going to go with, I got 2. First one's going to be figured out with Jalen Hurts at pick 66. I think it's just based on the fact that Kyler Murray went 7 picks before him, I think it was, or 6 picks. And I fucking hate Kyler Murray. And I love Jalen Hurts. That's the only thing. Like, I just love Jalen Hurts. I think this is going to be a huge year for the Eagles. I'd probably go out on a limb and say they're probably going to win the NFC East. Might be close, but I think they probably will win the NFC East. They're probably the team that made the most, impactful changes in the offseason to their offense and defense. I think they added some of the biggest names you'll see. So I think the Jalen Hurts pick was fantastic. And I had him as my RB4 going into this year. And then the other one that I had before Mike jumps in was a bit later on. So probably something that might not even be consequential by the end of the year. But that was the number 1 ranked team, Jabroni's taking Chris Olave with the 85th pick. And that was several picks after you took both Drake London and George Pickens. And I think Chris Olave just might have a smidge more of a way to get relevant this year, especially with his quarterback, because we know Jameis just loves to huck it with no regard for the defense that's in the vicinity. So I think Chris Olave by the end of the year might have a chance to be Jab's wide receiver 4. We'll see.
Potentially, yeah. I really like the Olave pick as well. It's tough between him. Yeah, I obviously took London and Pickens, probably ahead of their ADP for both of them, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, this was kind of a philosophy I took this year. I targeted the player versus situation more. I trusted myself to scout the player versus understand the situation that could be changing. Who knows if that's right or wrong, but obviously London and Pickens are just the archetype of receivers I love, especially taking two tiny fast guys and Waddle and Elijah Moore as my 2 receivers prior. I had to hammer in the big bodies. I didn't want it to go Olave and just get another 4-3 speed demon. But yeah, I like that pick by Jab for sure. Mike, who's your biggest value pick?
Mine was, so I was right. Don did have it. It was myself with Jalen Hurts. And that ties into when I mentioned Jake with the reach at Lamar Jackson. To me, I don't see a difference between Lamar and Jalen Hurts for fantasy purposes this year. They could both finish on top, like ahead of each other. It could go either way. And to get him in the whatever it was, 9th round or something, and Jake took Lamar in the 2nd. But my other value, which pretty early pick to be a value, but I think Zeke at 207 is a good value, regardless of what you think of Zeke. Obviously started trending down a little bit, but everybody knows he's not the 2016 Zeke anymore. But to get him pretty much in the 4th round, if you include our keepers, I think for Zeke, that's a hell of a value.
Yeah.
I'd love to throw out 2 really quick without discussing them. Don't have to. I would go Jackrabbits with DeAndre Hopkins, stash him on the bench for a little bit. And I'll throw a homer pick for myself and getting Darnell Mooney quite late, definitely later than his ADP. He's typically going as like the 27th or 28th wide receiver, and I got him as the 32nd one off the board. And I don't see many people making big plays in Chicago this year. So that could be good, but who knows?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out some honorable mentions. 2 receivers that went in round 7, picks 84, 85, or I guess a little bit higher because it's including keepers. Devonta Smith, Brandon Ayuk, back-to-back in the 7th round. These are guys that good wide receiver 3s with upside by bench warmers and I guess it says Jackrabbits, but it was actually Inferno. Yeah. This was I got Drake London later this round. I was looking at how the draft was shaking up, and I thought I was going to get one of those 2 guys, and I was loving it. Didn't end up happening that way. It would have been a major fall, but 2 good picks there too.
2 guys I'll toss out quickly. 2 receivers. Another homer pick on my own team, but Michael Gallup in the 11th round. I think it's going to be a steal as the wide receiver 2 on the Cowboys whenever he does come back. And another one from the Tinks in the 14th round, Romeo Dobbs. I think there is a world he becomes the Packers' number 1 wide receiver this year. And if that happens, could be the steal of the draft in the 14th round.
Definitely.
No issues with those ones. Yeah.
I'm going with a homer pick for myself then too. Round 10, James Cook.
Yeah, you got it.
Just because, there's just a world this guy's the starting RB for Buffalo in a couple weeks. Like, I don't know. I don't really know too much.
There's a world he's the new Singletary, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Which, if I can get him 6 rounds later than Singletary went, I mean,
sure.
Plus he's a fucking rookie. It's electric, man. I can't resist.
Yeah. Dalvin Cook's brother? I could be wrong. Cousin?
Yeah.
Cousin?
Yeah.
Brother.
Brother.
Right.
Tell me they don't have like same juice in the genes.
We've seen some.
Anyways,
it's gonna be quite different.
yeah. The St. Browns, Equanimous, and Amir.
But have you heard of Osiris? Osiris is making the waves in the junior football ranks now.
Anyways, boys, we've got the first game of the year kicking off in 20 minutes here. Rams, Bills.
This is as Isaiah McKenzie get in the lineup. That's what
Dawson Knox is into. Here we go.
I actually like the value of Knox too. I had him written down.
Yeah.
I'm not playing James Cook though, but God, I'm excited for this game.
Yep.
I'm excited you guys finally came on here. I thought this was a good pod. One of the first 3-person pods flowed smoothly.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you guys for coming on.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a good time, man.
Yeah, nice to be
on. All right.
First time.
Yeah.
Good luck to both of you in your week 1 matchups, and chat soon.
Peace.
Later.
Cheers.